Read the plum and the golden lotus like this chapter 20 embroidered portraits. Silly gangsters join in the feast. Fools compete to destroy the flower garden verse story. Meng Yuluyi persuades Wu Yunyang. Simon King makes a big fuss in Lichen courtyard. 1. Spring plum and jade flute. At the end of the last episode, Li Ping'er finally filled Simon King with a huge flattery. And naturally the next step was to drink and talk and have fun. However, we must not forget that there is a spring plum outside the door and a group of beauties at the garden door. So this time I'll start with Chen Mai. Simon King beat Li Ping'er with a horsewhip. Ying Chen and Xu Chen were in other rooms. Chen Mai stood waiting outside the door and informed Pan Jinlian and Meng Yulu of what she heard. Then Li Ping'er emotionally successfully. Chen Mai was sent to the kitchen to ask for wine and food. At this time, Pan Jinlian was very dissatisfied. Isn't there a girl in Li Ping'er's room? Why did Chen Mai have to go? Obviously, careful readers will not let go of this question. So, let's answer it on behalf of Simon King. First of all, Simon King didn't know what Li Ping'er would say, but in any case, he didn't want his family's scandal to be publicized, especially not letting more people know about the huge treasure under Wu Yunyang's bed. Secondly, he hoped that the fact of the horsewhip would be conveyed, because it might have a sufficient deterrent or comforting effect on other wives and concubines. Pan Jinlian immediately gloated when she heard that she had also been beaten for such an important job. He could only choose Chen Mai, his favorite and most reassuring maid. Why Chen Mai? Because she was bought with 16 taels of silver, because she was adopted, and she might have a better future. So Simon King regarded Chen Mai as a confidant in the harem. It can be said that, from Pan Jinlian's personal servant to Simon King's death, Chen Mai has always had a transcendent status, and it is this confidant value that plays a role. Of course, this is our wishful thinking. Pan Jinlian can't understand it, and Meng Yulu can't understand it either. Pan Jinlian complained. He is so serious that he is as lazy as death. He has a lot of errands, and when he is done with drilling holes, he has to go as fast as possible. Meng Yulu also complained. My eldest girl Langshang. I am making him do the work, so he has nothing to do. Dad makes him do evil things and listen to others. Look at how fast he walks. One goes as fast as he can and the other goes as fast as he can are both smart subordinates. The work assigned by the direct supervisor can be postponed as long as possible, and the work assigned by the big boss actively increases the sense of presence. Because the direct supervisor can only affect your promotion and salary increase, and the big boss decides your promotion and salary increase. This is easy to understand, but the problem is that when we look through the whole book, we almost never see Simon King directly telling Chen Mai, let alone Lan Xiang, what to do. So where do they start with these two sentences? Perhaps, as Zhang Zhupo said, this is an introduction to Yuxiao, because a new character will soon appear, Song Huilian. Simon King wanted to seduce the wife of a nobleman, but since it was inconvenient to do so in person, and he had to hide it from his wife and concubines, the best way was to find a maid to help him. So this paragraph is very likely to be a foreshadowing of the match. Yuxiao came right next. Pan Jinlian was not sensitive to Yuxiao, but Meng Yulu reacted immediately. Wu Yunyang knows whether you came or not. Yuxiao's answer was that Wu Yunyang had already fallen asleep. To say that Li Ping'er just failed to hang herself yesterday. To say that tonight Simon King carried a horsewhip into the room. No matter how calm the heart is, no one will care about the current major events in the garden, let alone Wu Yunyang, who has a strong desire for power. Obviously, she would never really sleep. She didn't come in person just to express a kind of indifferent grudge, and Yuxiao's rival, and even Xiao Yu's rival soon after, just expressed her extreme concern. 2. Wu Yunyang's Cold War. Wu Yunyang's fighting spirit and concern are justified. After all, this is the most difficult moment for her. The first problem is that Wu Yunyang has discovered that Pan Jinlian is far from being as innocent as she initially appeared. Those two hairpins made her resentful. What's more, Pan Jinlian definitely took the most credit for provoking Simon King to have a cold war with her. This time Meng Yulu kindly persuaded Wu Yunyang and his wife to reconcile. Unexpectedly, Wu Yunyang delivered a righteous speech expressing her determination to persist in the Cold War. I never quarreled with him. He was just being mean. He called me an unvirtuous whore behind others' backs. How could I be unvirtuous? Now that I have 7 or 8 people in the room, I realize that I am not a virtuous whore. Virtuous. Who knew that people were setting up traps behind their backs every day? They just kept it secret from me and locked me up under the vet. I was pushed to rest in the courtyard today and will be pushed to the hospital tomorrow. Resting in the courtyard. Who would have thought that he just wanted to rest at home? You ignore me. I want to beg you. You don't want me to eat 3 meals a day. I just think that I am a man. And I am a widow here. There are 2 focuses here that allow us to understand Wu Yunyang's thoughts. The first is the trap behind the scenes. You always say that you spent the night in a brothel, but those were all nights at Wu's house. She would not say that it was based on the judgment of the treasure crossing the wall, but she would say that it was the inspiration given to her by Pan Jinlian's hairpin. No matter how much Pan Jinlian talks and sows dissension, it is obvious that Wu Yunyang has long understood her position in it. The second is the unvirtuous whore. That day Simon King called everyone whores. Pan Jinlian could endure it, but how could Wu Yunyang endure it? She is an innocent daughter who is getting married to a matchmaker. And she is also a virtuous woman who has 4 or 5 concubines. How could she be so short of Li Ping'er that she becomes unvirtuous? Later, through pillow talk and Pan Jinlian's instigation of discord, Simon King blurted out, "Leave it to him and teach that unvirtuous whore. Don't expect me to deal with him until tomorrow." It was this sentence that caused a cold war between the couple. But besides Pan Jinlian, who else would tell Wu Yunyang? Pan Jinlian even said directly to Li Ping'er, "Big sister and his father have not spoken for a while, but they are all here for you." Wu Yunyang understood all this psychologically and knew that Pan Jinlian was provoking a war between her and Li Ping'er, but Li Ping'er had to fight. The second problem is that Li Ping'er's wealth is too powerful. Wu Yunyang can tolerate Li Ping'er's whiteness and beauty, but what she can't stand is wealth. When Li Ping'er married, the treasures under Wu Yunyang's bed naturally returned. Regarding this question, ordinary readers may ask, just go back when you go back. Isn't it Simon King's property to put it under whose bed? The answer is very different. At the end of the book, Simon King is dead and Meng Yulu remarries. The treasure she brought has always been in her room, but she took it away when she remarried. Therefore, as long as Li Ping'er doesn't die, these treasures will really have nothing to do with Wu Yunyang from now on. What impact does Li Ping'er's wealth have on her? The morning after Li Ping'er's emotion, she showed her cage to Simon King. The first one is the 100 large Western pearls she brought all the way from Liang Zhongshu's residence to Tokyo. Apart from anything else, this is the only wealth Wu Yunyang can rely on at the end. Then Li Ping'er took out a set of 9 Liang gold silk hairdos and asked his wives and concubines if they also had them. Simon King said that they had some made of silver, but none of this kind of gold. Not to mention how dazzling, luxurious and heavy the 9-tail gold jewelry looks when worn on the head. The key here is that the Ming dynasty stipulated that women from ordinary families were not allowed to wear gold jewelry or silk clothes. Of course, by the middle and late Ming dynasty, such as the era of Jin Ping Mei, many common people, especially wealthy merchant families, had generally exceeded the rules and dressed more and more luxuriously. Li Ping'er was originally an official wife and concubine, so naturally she could die. Now she has married to a commoner's family, so this question rises. On the one hand, she couldn't violate the law without permission, and on the other hand, she didn't dare to overstep Wu Yunyang's rule. So she had no choice but to imitate Wu Yunyang's golden-laid jade Guanyin Man Kai Jiao, although it was also illegal. But she followed the example of the main wife. Does not cause criticism from others. We can refer to Pan Jinlian's attitude on this matter. She took advantage of Simon King's break-in running errands to change jewelry for Li Ping'er, took the opportunity to get some kickbacks from Simon King, and forcefully asked for a Jufeng Dianer like Li Ping'er. And she also deliberately lent Li Ping'er a pout, leading Li Ping'er to reveal in front of Wu Yunyang that she had also made a copy of the same golden-laid jade. I think what Pan Jinlian wants to express here is, look, she is really rich. I landed on a Jufeng Diana with the same pattern as her. But the golden-laid jade Guanyin filled the pond with all the charms and distractions. Sister Wu Yunyang. As soon as she came to our house, she kept pace with you. In an ancient society where clothing and jewelry were used to distinguish classes, do you think Wu Yunyang could not be angry? That's not all. There is a third problem. Li Ping'er, who has just arrived, has already begun to interfere in the order of the Ximen family. The thing is like this: after Li Ping'er sold the Hua family house, she bought a house on Lion Street. Now she married into Ximen's family, and her servant also came with her. Naturally, the house there was empty, and only her nanny was left, Old Fang. So she asked Ximen King to send Lai Wang and his wife to take care of her. Wu Yunyang has great opinions on this. What Wu Yunyang means is that since you and everyone are here, why keep the house? Just sell it. Even if they don't sell, then just send a boy there. Why send Lai Wang and his wife? Lai Wang's daughter-in-law is ill. It's obviously a dual purpose here. After Fu's daughter-in-law died of illness, Lai Wang married Song Huilian. Indeed, to be fair, Wu Yunyang was right. In the end, Li Ping'er took a step back and let a servant guard the old house. The matter was settled peacefully, but the problem is that Wu Yunyang did not openly object to the matter at all. She just complained to other concubines. Li Ping'er and Ximen King were not present at the scene. Who was sowing discord behind the scenes? Who asked Li Ping'er to give in? Of course, Wu Yunyang herself is not a fuel-efficient lamp. On the morning when Li Ping'er's new daughter-in-law served tea to her sisters, Yu Xiao and Xiao Yu took turns making fun of Li Ping'er. It's a good firewood. It's a good flood. It's enough kowtow. It's a good cry. A long list of dirty jokes made Meng Yulu and Pan Jinlian burst into laughter. And Li Ping'er's mouth Li didn't understand what they were saying, but sooner or later she figured it out. The content was nothing more than mocking her about last night's sex, and it was quite exaggerated. Although Wu Yunyang finally stopped them. What are the identities of Yu Xiao and Xiao Yu? Do they really dare to challenge the new Liu Niang like this? Or is it necessary? And how come they know so much about the inside story of Li Ping'er's Hua family? Obviously, we can guess what Wu Yunyang said later. There is also the most fundamental problem. She and Ximen King are still in the Cold War. Of course, she doesn't want to have a Cold War with Ximen King, because if Ximen King doesn't talk to her, he can talk to other women. If he doesn't go to bed with her, he can go to bed with other women, but she has to keep her temper cold, and she wants her husband to admit his mistakes and bow his head. Can't lose face in front of the concubines. However, Li Ping'er's power and the influence of the Cold War even exceeded her imagination. After Li Ping'er came over, Ximen's family held a banquet. This was what Ximen King had promised his brothers, and he wanted to invite everyone to congratulate him. But what is very entertaining is that Hua Da, who agreed to surrender and asked to be a relative, actually sat at the first seat with Wu Yunyang's brother Uncle Wu. Earl Ying was smart and lost no time in making a stroke of genius. Hua Da respected his relatives. This made Uncle Wu, second Uncle Wu, and even young Zhang Bao and Wu feel so embarrassed. Although the waiters had shamelessly toasted in the brothel last time, this was a formal occasion. How could we miss it? Who doesn't know that Li Ping'er is a woman with a background? And who doesn't know that Li Ping'er is the richest woman? As a result, all kinds of disgusting flattery was flying all over the place. Even the songs she sang were a pair made in heaven, like a Luan and a phoenix. Eternal reunion, husband and wife for generations to come, etc. According to Pan Jinlian, the little wife sang a couple made in heaven. Where can I put it? Eldest sister? Can Wu Yunyang not be filled with jealousy and resentment? While drinking, Uncle Wu came into the room to visit Wu Yunyang. She persuaded Wu Yunyang to give up the Cold War and the couple reconciled. Sister, if you wait like this, your previous good relationship will be ruined. After some womanly words, she finally said, you and I are not that kind of people, so let's get over it. You two can live well. Yes, I feel more radiant every time I come here. Uncle Wu probably felt awkward in front of Hua Dazan. The so-called those families were Pan Jinlian's poor family, Li Zhao's prostitute family, Meng Yulu's merchants, and what Li Ping'er said. For those who don't know, Uncle Wu wants to tell Wu Yunyang, Our Wu family is an official family. Although we are not well-educated and sensible, we at least obey the four virtues. You used to be a good guy, marrying a prostitute, marrying Meng Yulu, marrying Pan Jinlian, etc. Come here. What's wrong now? You have to find a way to reconcile quickly, otherwise we might as well spend the brilliance and forget it. But you will have no status at all. Is Wu Yunyang still unclear? He has his rich sister, and he treats me, a poor official's girl, as if he is dead. Li Ping'er is the rich sister. She has already understood everything behind Li Ping'er's coming and going, and understands the difficulty of the current Cold War situation, and she will not compromise easily. She must look further, think more, and find a better way to retreat to advance. Wu Yunyang's opportunity finally came. At the end of this chapter, Simon King makes a scene in Lichun Yuan. This is a very clever transition, showing the author's controlled narrative skills of the plum in the golden vase. Originally, it was a funny thing for a prostitute to be jealous, but it was through this romantic story that the case that had been difficult to close was settled. It turned out that the Cold War caused by Simon King's casual reference to whore heated up with everyone's constant persuasion or instigation. Finally, it was time to reconcile, so the author changed his writing and secretly picked up Ding Erguan from Sister Li Gui of Lichun Hospital. When I started writing, on the one hand I wrote the bitch has no righteousness, completely indifferent to the old gang. On the other hand I wrote the housewife has feelings, Wu Yunyang jumped from the bottom of the Cold War back to the front of the battle for favor, and the garden beauty the gang war is in full swing. It's really a double purpose, with a clever ending. Sister Li Gui and Wu Yunyang each go their own way and return to their respective places.
Alright, this part of the story ends here.
Want to know what happened next? Let's listen to the breakdown next time.